Dr. Van Kalroth had seen a lot in his 200 years as a physician. He had reattached limbs that had been vaporized and then reconstituted. He had performed surgery on species whose organs existed in 4 dimensions simultaneously. He had even successfully treated a patient whose biology was based entirely on aggressive sarcasm. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for this. The human sat on the examination table, legs dangling, scrolling through his datapad like he was waiting for a shuttle and not, according to every medical scanner in the emergency ward, actively dying. "So," the human said, not looking up from his pad, "do you guys have coffee here, or is that not a thing?" Van Kalroth stared at the holographic readout floating in front of him. His primary hands gripped the edge of the scanner console, while his secondary hands made frantic adjustments to the calibration settings. His tertiary hands, usually reserved for delicate surgical work, were currently clutching his own head in what could only be described as medical despair. The scanner was very clear. Liver function at 62%. Kidney efficiency hovering somewhere around half capacity. Microfractures throughout the skeletal system. Cardiovascular stress consistent with someone currently experiencing a heart attack. Cellular degradation that suggested the patient had been exposed to significant radiation sometime in the last standard week. And the neural readings, the neural readings were simply offensive to medical science. "Mr. Webb," Van Kalroth said, his voice carefully controlled despite 4 of his eyes twitching involuntarily. "I need you to be completely honest with me. How long have you been feeling these symptoms?" Marcus Webb finally looked up from his datapad. He was painfully average for a human, which was to say he looked like he had been assembled from spare parts and good intentions. Brown hair that defied several laws of physics, a face that suggested he had slept recently but not well, and an expression of mild inconvenience. "What symptoms?" Marcus asked. "I just have a headache. It's not even that bad. Like a 6 out of 10. Maybe a 7 if the lights stay this bright." Van Kalroth's translator chip briefly malfunctioned, convinced it had somehow misunderstood. Behind him, Pip, his nurse, rippled through a pattern of colors that roughly translated to confusion, mixed with concern and a touch of existential dread. Pip was a Galatai, a species that communicated entirely through bioluminescent color shifts, and right now they were expressing things that did not have words in any language. "Mr. Webb, according to this scanner, you are experiencing multiple organ failures. Your body is, and I want to be very precise about this, falling apart at the molecular level." Marcus blinked. "Huh, that's weird." "That's weird," Van Kalroth repeated slowly. "That is your medical assessment of your own imminent death, that it is weird. I mean, I feel fine. Bit tired, but I pulled a double shift yesterday loading cargo containers. Oh, and I skipped lunch. That's probably the headache. Low blood sugar, you know." Van Kalroth did not know. Van Kalroth was beginning to suspect he did not know anything anymore. He turned to Pip. "Run the scan again, full spectrum, check the calibration twice." Pip shimmered a color that meant compliance but also deep skepticism, and activated the scanner array. The medical bay hummed with energy as every diagnostic tool in the facility focused on the human who was casually picking at a loose thread on his shirt. The results came back identical. "Okay, run it again," Van Kalroth said. "Third scan. Same results. One more time. Fourth scan." The scanner actually added a new warning about catastrophic cellular breakdown that it had apparently missed the first 3 times. Marcus Webb yawned and stretched. "Hey, so, seriously about that coffee? I've been up for like 19 hours and I'm really starting to feel it." Van Kalroth made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his unnaturally long life. "Someone get this human a coffee, and then get me every specialist on this station. I don't care if they're sleeping, eating, or in the middle of reproducing. I need them here now." The first specialist to arrive was Dr. Trell, a crystalline whose entire body was composed of living mineral structures that resonated with diagnostic frequencies. Trell took one look at the scanner readout, performed their own independent scan using their natural abilities, and then did something that Van Kalroth had never seen a crystalline do in his entire career. Trell fainted. Not collapsed. Not powered down. Fainted. just straight up dropped to the floor in a heap of unconscious crystal, their internal light dimming to almost nothing. That's not medically possible for their species, Van Kulroth said to no one in particular. Neither is what your readings are showing, said Dr. Quinn, a Centaurian exobiologist who had arrived next and was currently reviewing the scans with all three of her eyes. This human should be dead, not dying, dead past tense. Several hours ago dead. Marcus, who had finally received his coffee and was nursing it like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to reality, which according to the neurological scans it possibly was, looked up. I feel like I should be offended, but honestly, I'm too tired to care. Also, this coffee is terrible, like, genuinely awful, but it's caffeinated so it works. Works for what? Quinn asked, genuine scientific curiosity overriding her horror. For keeping me awake so I don't fall asleep standing up again. Again? It's happened maybe 4 times, you kind of get used to it. Van Kulroth was going to need so much therapy after this shift. Surgeon General Vax arrived next, floating in on her anti-gravity field, her gaseous form shifting with concern. She reviewed the scans, cross-referenced them with galactic medical databases, and then made a sound that her species made when they encountered something that violated the fundamental laws of biology. His liver, Vax said, her voice modulated through a translation device, is failing, actively failing, right now. Yeah, had a bit of a wild weekend, Marcus said, taking another sip of terrible coffee. My buddy Rick makes this stuff he calls moonshine. Pretty sure it's technically a solvent, great times though. You poisoned yourself, intentionally, for recreation. I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds bad. It is bad, Van Kulroth's voice cracked on the last word. It is phenomenally catastrophically bad. Your kidneys are operating at 40% capacity. Marcus shrugged, and gestured that the scanner interpreted as causing micro-tears in 17 different muscle groups. They've been worse, had a kidney stone last year, that was rough. This is just kind of normal background noise. Normal, Vax repeated. Background noise. Sure. I mean, doesn't everyone's body just kind of hurt all the time? That's just being alive, right? The medical staff exchanged looks. Well, those that had eyes did. Pip cycled through a color that had never been documented in Galati physiology before, something between horror and fascination, that leaned heavily into the ultraviolet spectrum. Mr. Webb, Quinn said carefully, can you describe your current pain level to me? Like a 4 out of 10. Maybe a 5 if you count the chair being uncomfortable. And what? Van Kulroth asked, dreading the answer. Would a 10 out of 10 be? Marcus thought about it, actually considered the question like it was a normal thing to ponder. Oh, you know, like when I broke my leg in 3 places and had to walk 2 miles back to the settlement before I could get help. That was probably a 9. Maybe a strong 8. 10 would be, I don't know, on fire. Fully on fire. Not like partially on fire, that's probably a 7. Trell, who had regained consciousness just in time to hear that statement, fainted again. He's rating being on fire, Vax said, her gaseous form rippling with disbelief. He has a numerical scale for being on fire. Well, yeah, Marcus said. You've got to have a scale. Otherwise, how do you know when to actually worry? An orderly, a young Felnari with spotted fur and too many tails, nervously approached Marcus with a fresh cup of coffee. Marcus accepted it gratefully, took a sip, and grimaced. Still bad, he announced. But I appreciate the effort. You guys don't really do coffee here, do you? We do now, Van Kulroth muttered. We're installing a human-grade coffee synthesizer. It's apparently a medical necessity. Oh, that's great. Make sure it can do espresso, double shots, triple if the shift is rough. The scanner, as if personally offended by Marcus's continued survival, added a new alert about dangerous levels of caffeine in his bloodstream. Marcus did not notice. He was too busy checking his data pad to see if his cargo shift was still scheduled for tomorrow. Van Kulroth dismissed the other specialists, partially because they were not helping and partially because Trell had fainted a 3rd time and was becoming a tripping hazard. He pulled up a holographic interface, opened a fresh medical file, and prepared himself for what he suspected was going to be a deeply upsetting conversation. Marcus, I need to take a complete medical history from you. Sure thing, Doc. What do you want to know? Let's start with major injuries or illnesses. Okay. Broke my left arm when I was 8. Fell out of a tree. Broke my right arm when I was 12. Different tree. Learned my lesson after that. Stuck to climbing rocks instead. Van Kalroth typed this in, noting that humans apparently engaged in recreational falling as children. Continue. Had my appendix out when I was 20. That was fun. Well, not fun. It tried to kill me, but the surgery was quick. I'm sorry, what tried to kill you? My appendix. It's this organ we have that doesn't really do anything except occasionally explode. Evolution's a bit weird sometimes. Van Kalroth stopped typing. You have an organ. That serves no purpose, except attempting to murder you. I mean, scientists think it may be used to do something. Now it's just kind of there until it decides violence is the answer. Pip flashed a color that was the visual equivalent of a very long, tired sigh. What else? Van Kalroth asked, his voice carefully neutral. Oh, I get food poisoning maybe once a month. Comes with eating at different stations, you know? Different bacteria. Builds up the immune system, though. You poison yourself with food regularly. Not on purpose. Well, except for that time Rick made the moonshine I mentioned. That was definitely on purpose. Right. The recreational poison. Please continue. Marcus scratched his head thinking. Got electrocuted fixing a power coupling about 6 months ago. That tingled for a while. Broke 2 ribs in a loading accident. That was fun. They healed wrong, so they kind of ache when it rains, but that's whatever. Oh, and I've got this shoulder thing that acts up sometimes. Old sports injury from college. Van Kalroth had stopped typing. His hands, all 6 of them, were resting flat on the console. How old are you, Marcus? 32. 32 standard years. Yeah. And you've accumulated this many injuries in 32 years. I mean, I've been pretty lucky, honestly. My dad's got way more problems than me, and he's doing fine. Still working construction on Europa Station. Van Kalroth decided he did not want to know what Europa Station was, or why it required construction work from apparently immortal injury magnets. Tell me about your daily routine. Wake up around 0500, grab some coffee, hit the gym for an hour. You exercise, while your body is actively falling apart. Well, yeah, you've got to stay in shape. Anyway, gym, then shower, then work shift from 0700 to 1500 usually. Sometimes longer if we're behind on cargo loads. Grab lunch when I can, dinner around 1800, maybe hang out with friends. In bed by 2200. That's 5 hours of sleep. Yeah, about that. Sometimes 6 if I'm lucky. And the coffee? Oh, usually about 6 cups a day. 8 if it's a rough week. Quinn, who had been listening from across the medical bay while monitoring Trell's recovery, called out. Did he say 6 cups? Of coffee? The stimulant? On a normal day, Marcus confirmed cheerfully. Van Kalroth pulled up the chemical analysis of coffee. Caffeine, a known toxin to most species, lethal in high doses to at least 40% of known sapient life. Humans drank it by the liter because it made them, and he checked the translation to make sure he had this right. Less sleepy. Marcus, do you understand that you are constantly poisoning yourself? I mean, kind of? But technically everything gives you cancer if you think about it too hard. We learned to just not think about it too hard. Everything gives you cancer? Well, the sun, and processed food, and unprocessed food depending on who you ask. Breathing certain air. Not breathing certain air, it's a whole thing, but we've gotten pretty good at treating it, so it's fine. It was not fine. Nothing about this was fine. Van Kalroth was beginning to understand that humans were not a species that had evolved naturally. They were a cosmic joke that had somehow gained sentience and decided to make it everyone else's problem. Do you take any medications regularly? Nah, not really. Popped some painkillers after the rib thing, but that was temporary. Oh, I take allergy medication during spring. My home planet's plants try to kill me specifically. The plants. Yeah, pollen makes me sneeze, it's annoying. Your planet's plant life is hostile to you. I mean, we're hostile to it too, we mow it and stuff. It's a mutual aggression thing. Pip cycled through colors so rapidly they created a strobe effect that Van Kalroth had to ask them to stop before someone had a seizure. Van Kelroth leaned back in his chair, all 6 hands forming a pyramid of contemplation and defeat. Marcus, I need you to understand something. By galactic medical standards, you should not be alive right now. Your body is operating well below what we consider viable thresholds for life. Marcus finished his second cup of terrible coffee. Well, I feel fine. Bit hungry. You guys have vending machines? Van Kelroth spent the next hour reviewing everything he knew about humans, which admittedly was not much. They were a recent addition to the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel about 50 years ago. They had been cordial, enthusiastic, and apparently completely insane by every medical standard known to science. He pulled up Earth's planetary classification. The data loaded and Van Kelroth felt something in his brain reorganize itself, possibly in self-defense. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. Class 12. The scale only went to 15, and 13 through 15 were designated as uninhabitable hellscapes where even microbes struggled to exist. 12 was the kind of planet where the survey teams required hazard pay and extensive trauma counseling afterward. He read the description. Inconsistent gravity due to a massive moon that caused the oceans to periodically rearrange themselves. Temperature variations of over 100 degrees between seasonal extremes. An atmosphere that was 20% corrosive oxygen that slowly poisoned and aged everything that breathed it. Weather patterns that included rotating columns of destructive wind, frozen water falling from the sky hard enough to cause structural damage, and lightning that could vaporize organic matter instantly. The planet's dominant life forms included predators with enough bite force to crush bone, venomous creatures that could kill with a single sting, and microscopic organisms that caused thousands of different diseases. The plant life produced toxins as a defense mechanism, and some of it was so aggressive it could literally strangle other plants to death. And humans had not just survived there. They had thrived. They had reached the top of the food chain, and then gotten bored and invented new things to worry about. Pip, Van Kelroth said slowly. Pull up the baseline stress hormone levels for humans, Pip obliged, displaying the data in a holographic chart. Van Kelroth stared at it. Then he checked the scale to make sure he was reading it correctly. Then he checked it again. These levels would kill a hexapodian in under an hour. Pip flashed a confirmation color. These are normal, for humans. All the time. Another confirmation. They live in a constant state of what we would consider fatal stress. Pip added a color that suggested this was indeed horrifying but also explained a lot. Quinn drifted over, her 3 eyes scanning the data. Oh, that's fascinating. They're not surviving in spite of their failing bodies. They evolved to operate while falling apart. Their baseline state is what we would consider a medical emergency. Exactly. Van Kelroth stood up, his excitement overriding his horror. They're not dying, they're just existing at a level of physical damage that would kill most species. It's normal for them. Marcus, who had been browsing the station's limited selection of snacks in a nearby vending machine, looked over. You guys figuring out why I'm apparently dead but not really? Yes, actually. Marcus, how often would you say you experience pain? I don't know, all the time? Like, there's always something. Sore muscles, headache, joint pain, whatever. You just ignore it and get on with your day. Quinn made a note on her data pad. Their pain tolerance isn't high. Their pain baseline is just so elevated that they've adapted to it. They're in constant discomfort and consider it normal. That's deeply upsetting, Van Kelroth said. Yeah, it's not great, Marcus agreed, finally selecting something that claimed to be chocolate but was probably lying. But you get used to it. Honestly, if I wake up and nothing hurts, that's when I worry. Means something's really wrong. Van Kelroth pulled up more data on human evolution. Persistence predators. They had hunted prey by literally chasing it until it died of exhaustion. They had evolved to sweat, an absolutely disgusting cooling mechanism that no other species had developed because it was inefficient and gross. But on Earth, with its temperature extremes, it had meant humans could operate in heat that would kill other predators. They had evolved to run on adrenaline and spite. Their bodies were designed to keep functioning through injuries that should be fatal, just long enough to either find safety or take their attacker down with them. They could ignore pain, push through exhaustion, and operate on a level of physical damage that would hospitalize any other species. They're not broken, Van Kelroth said quietly. They're just like that. Like what? Marcus asked, around a mouthful of definitely not chocolate. Terrifying. You're all absolutely terrifying. Huh, I'm going to take that as a compliment. I expected nothing less. The station had installed a human-grade coffee machine in the medical bay. It was bolted to the floor with the same security measures used for weapon storage because the first machine had been stolen within 24 hours of installation. The coffee it produced was, according to every human who tried it, pretty good, which was the highest praise Van Kelroth had ever heard them give any coffee that wasn't from Earth. You know, Marcus said, accepting a final cup for the road, I appreciate you guys taking the time to figure out the whole human thing. Must have been confusing. Confusing, Van Kelroth repeated. Yes, that's certainly one word for it. We're not that weird. Marcus, your species considers a normal day to include activities that would be classified as torture for most other species. Yeah, but we enjoy it. That's the difference. Van Kelroth had learned not to argue with human logic. It was like wrestling with a concept that had learned to fight back, and also had a worrying lack of self-preservation instincts. Pip had started a support group for medical staff who treated humans. It met twice a week and had become the station's best-attended voluntary program. The therapy sessions usually devolved into medical professionals sharing their most unbelievable human stories, while Pip flashed colors of commiseration and occasionally concern when the stories got too wild. So where are you off to next? Van Kelroth asked as he finalized Marcus's discharge papers. High-gravity mining colony, Canto 6. Should be fun. High gravity. You're going to a high-gravity environment. Yeah, pays better. Plus I hear the workout you get just from walking around is incredible. Your bones are already damaged. They'll get stronger. That's how bones work. You damage them a little. They heal back tougher. Van Kelroth had learned this was actually true, which was somehow worse than if it had been false. Humans intentionally damaged their bones to make them stronger. They called it exercise and considered it healthy. Please try not to die, Van Kelroth said, which had become his standard farewell to human patients. No promises, but I'll do my best. Marcus stood up from the examination table, the scanner immediately updating with a new alert about the stress his movement had caused to approximately 40 different body parts. He stretched, causing 17 more alerts. He yawned, somehow triggering a warning about jaw tension. Thanks again, Doc, you've been great. They shook hands, which the scanner interpreted as a minor impact injury to both parties. Van Kelroth had learned to ignore the scanner's opinion on human social customs. Marcus headed for the door, coffee in hand, data pad in the other, the picture of a functional human, ready to return to duty. He was 3 steps from the door when he tripped over absolutely nothing, stumbled, caught himself on a nearby chair, and straightened up with the casual grace of someone who had done this thousands of times before. I'm good, he announced to no one in particular. The scanner, ever vigilant, updated immediately. Minor sprain detected in left ankle. Patient appears unconcerned. Recommend immediate treatment. Marcus did not notice. He was too busy checking his messages to see if his next cargo shift had been confirmed. He waved goodbye without looking back, nearly hit Pip with his elbow in the process, apologized cheerfully, and disappeared into the corridor. Van Kelroth looked at the scanner. The scanner looked back if scanners could be said to look, which they could not. But at this point in his career, Van Kelroth was willing to attribute consciousness to medical equipment if it helped him process what he dealt with daily. They're fine, he said to the scanner. Probably. The scanner disagreed with a series of urgent warnings about Marcus's untreated ankle injury. He doesn't even know he's hurt. More warnings. That's just how they are. The scanner, in what Van Kelroth chose to interpret as defeat, stopped updating. Somewhere in the corridor outside, Marcus Webb walked on his sprained ankle toward his next adventure, his body falling apart at the cellular level, his coffee terrible but caffeinated, his species an absolute nightmare for medical science. And he was, by human standards, perfectly fine. Van Kelroth pulled up the next patient file, another human, this one complaining about back pain. The preliminary scan suggested catastrophic spinal damage. Van Kalroth checked the notes. The patient had been lifting boxes wrong for 6 years and had decided to finally get it checked out. He sighed, all 6 hands reaching for his coffee, which was not as good as the human stuff but at least did not come with a side of existential horror. "Pip, send them in." Pip flashed a color of solidarity. They were in this together now, caretakers of a species that had looked at the universe's rules about biology and decided they were more like suggestions. Somewhere in the distance, the coffee machine beeped. Another human was getting their medically necessary caffeine fix. The scanner hummed to life, ready to be horrified again. It was just another day in the Death Worlder Medical Division. It was, Van Kalroth had learned, always just another day. And the humans were fine. Probably. Pip flashed a color suggesting that maybe they should recalibrate every medical device in the galaxy to account for humans just being built different, as the humans themselves might say. Van Kalroth was beginning to think that was not a joke, but a genuine necessity. "So am I cleared for duty or what?" Marcus asked. "My shift starts in 6 hours and I need to get some sleep before then." "You're going to sleep," Van Kalroth said, "with multiple organ failures." "I mean, yeah? What else would I do?" Van Kalroth did not have an answer for that. Word spread through the station with the speed of gossip and the persistence of a rumor that was too entertaining to die. Within a standard day, Van Kalroth's medical bay had become something of a tourist attraction. Doctors from other ships docked at Prometheus 7 came to see the human whose medical readings had caused 3 specialists to request stress leave and 1 to faint repeatedly. And then more humans started showing up. A human jogger came in for a routine checkup. The scanner showed stress levels consistent with someone actively in combat. She was apparently training for something called a marathon, which involved running 26 miles for no reason except personal satisfaction. Her knees were damaged, her cardiovascular system was working overtime, and she had stress fractures in both feet. "How do you feel?" Van Kalroth had asked, already knowing the answer would make him want to retire. "Great. Really feeling the endorphin rush today." The endorphins, it turned out, were pain-suppressing chemicals that human bodies produce to cope with their constant state of injury. They got addicted to their own biochemistry and called it exercise. A human chef arrived next, complaining about a minor cut on his hand. The scanner detected exposure to 47 different chemical compounds, at least 20 of which were toxic to most carbon-based life. He explained, with the patience of someone who had done this before, that he worked with various spices and ingredients from different worlds, and that yes, capsaicin was technically poison, but it made food taste good, so humans ate it anyway. "Let me understand this," Van Kalroth had said. "You add poison to your food to enhance the flavor." "Well, when you say it like that, you make it sound bad." That had become Van Kalroth's least favorite sentence in any language. A human parent showed up next, looking like death warmed over and served on a plate that was also tired. The scanner showed catastrophic sleep deprivation, stress hormones that should have caused system shutdown, and nutrient deficiencies that suggested they had forgotten food was necessary for survival. "How long since you've slept properly?" Van Kalroth asked. "Define properly." "More than 4 consecutive hours." The human parent laughed, a sound that was somewhere between humor and a cry for help. "Oh, doctor. 4 years. I have a toddler." 4 years. Well, the first year was the worst. Now little Emma only wakes up twice a night. It's an improvement. You've been operating on insufficient sleep for 4 years, and you consider this acceptable. I consider it parenthood. It's temporary. She'll sleep through the night eventually. Probably. Hopefully. Oh God, what if she doesn't? Van Kalroth had prescribed rest and been laughed at. Apparently, telling a human parent to sleep was like telling a star to stop burning. Technically possible, but not happening without significant intervention. The Galactic Medical Council called an emergency session. Van Kalroth found himself presenting his findings to a room full of the galaxy's top medical experts, all of whom listened with increasing horror as he explained that humans were just built to operate in a constant state of catastrophic damage. "You're suggesting," said Council Chair Maraxis, a Vortan whose species had perfected medicine to the point where illness was largely theoretical. That we need entirely different medical standards for one species. I'm suggesting, Ven Kalroth corrected, that our current standards don't apply to humans at all. They're not an outlier, they're an entirely different category. This is unprecedented. So are humans. The council argued for 3 hours. During that time, Marcus gave an interview to a galactic news network, where he casually mentioned that humans used to perform bloodletting as medicine, intentionally gave each other diseases to prevent worse diseases, and had performed brain surgery by hammering metal spikes through eye sockets. But we've gotten way better at medicine now, Marcus had assured the horrified reporter. We hardly ever do accidental lobotomies anymore. The interview went viral across 17 systems. The council passed emergency regulations within the hour. The new Deathworlder Medical Division was created with Ven Kalroth as its head. He was given a staff, a budget, and a strong recommendation to seek therapy on a regular basis. Pip became his head nurse, having developed something the humans called Stockholm Syndrome. Except instead of bonding with a captor, they had bonded with a species that defied medical science. The division's motto, suggested by Marcus and approved because no one had the energy to argue, was, "They're fine, probably." Ven Kalroth was not sure if his appointment was a promotion or a punishment. The humans assured him it was an honor. He was not comforted. 3 months later, Ven Kalroth had settled into his new role with the resigned acceptance of someone who had looked into the abyss and the abyss had shrugged and asked for coffee. The Deathworlder Medical Division had expanded to include not just humans, but several other species from high-classification Deathworlds who, while not quite as aggressively indestructible as humans, still operated well outside normal medical parameters. But humans remained the primary focus, mostly because they kept doing things that made the scanners cry. Marcus Webb returned for his final checkup before being cleared for duty. The scanner still showed multiple organ failures, chronic pain indicators, and stress levels that would kill a horse if horses were a galactic species, which they were not, but humans had brought the concept with them, and now everyone knew about horses, and that was its own problem. "All right, Marcus," Ven Kalroth said, reviewing the scans with the practiced eye of someone